Hello everyone, welcome back to the YouTube channel. Today we're diving into one of the most dramatic and overlooked episodes of World War II. A story about how Germany believed its deadly U-boats were untouchable inside massive concrete shelters in France, and how the Royal Air Force eventually shattered that confidence using one of the most powerful bombs ever built, the Tallboy. This is a tale of engineering brilliance, desperate warfare, and a race to destroy the German submarine threat before it strangled the lifelines of Britain and the United States. During the early years of World War II, German U-boats were terrorizing the Atlantic. These submarines hunted Allied merchant ships, sinking them by the thousands. The goal was simple: cut off food, fuel, weapons, and supplies from reaching Britain. If the U-boats succeeded, Britain would starve before American help could even arrive. To keep their submarine fleet operating safely, Germany constructed enormous reinforced bunkers along the French coast, places like Lorient, Brest, Saint-Nazaire, La Pallice, and Bordeaux. These were not ordinary buildings. They were massive submarine pens, built with walls and roofs made of 10 to 20 feet of steel-reinforced concrete. German commanders believed nothing dropped from the air could destroy them, and for a long time they were right. Allied bombers attacked these pens again and again, but the bombs simply bounced off or exploded harmlessly on the surface. The structures held strong, and U-boats continued to slip in and out, repair damage, reload torpedoes, and return to the Atlantic for more hunting. In the eyes of German engineers, the pens were invincible fortresses. But in 1943, the strategic balance began to shift. Allied codebreakers were decoding German communications, radar technology was improving, and long-range aircraft were pushing deeper into the Atlantic. The U-boat's dominance was weakening. Yet as long as the submarine pens survived, Germany could keep sending more U-boats into the fight. Destroying these hardened shelters became a top priority. Regular bombs were useless, so the Royal Air Force needed something far more powerful, something that could dig deep into concrete before exploding. This led to a revolution in bomb design by a man named Barnes-Wallis. Barnes-Wallis was an engineer famous for inventing the bouncing bomb used against German dams. But now he had an even more ambitious idea: a earth-penetrating bomb that would crash through reinforced structures like a gigantic bullet. His design became the Tallboy, a 12,000-pound monster with a streamlined shape that allowed it to reach near supersonic speeds as it fell. When dropped from high altitude, the Tallboy could bury itself deep underground or punch through concrete, before blasting everything apart from within. It was not just a bomb. It was a bunker killer. The RAF formed a special unit to use these weapons. 617 Squadron, better known as the Dambusters, the same squadron that had destroyed German dams earlier in the war. Now their target was the submarine pens in France. These pilots trained relentlessly to hit targets with extreme precision. Hitting a concrete roof with a Tallboy required the perfect combination of altitude, speed, wind calculation, and timing. In missions like these, even a few meters of error meant failure. By mid-1944, the battlefront in France was changing quickly. The day had begun. American and British forces were pushing inland, and Germany was retreating. But the U-boat pens still stood firm on the Atlantic coast, threatening Allied supply lines. The RAF needed to make its move. This first major Tallboy attack on a submarine pen took place in August 1944 at Brest. The German fleet was, using the heavily fortified U-boat shelter there as one of its last major operating bases. The British sent dozens of Lancaster bombers carrying Tallboys. The bombers roared toward the target at nearly 20,000 feet. Anti-aircraft guns filled the sky with flak, hoping to bring the British planes down before they released their weapons. But the Dambusters held steady, lining up their approach with absolute precision. When the Tallboys were finally released, they fell like meteors, accelerating faster and faster as gravity pulled them toward the ground. Some hit the surface of the bunker and smashed through layers of concrete before exploding. Others detonated nearby, shaking the foundations with massive shockwaves. For the first time, cracks began to appear in structures once thought indestructible. The Germans were stunned. Their safe harbor was no longer safe. In the following weeks, Tallboys were used again and again against the U-boat pens at Brest, Lorient, and La Pallice. Each attack weakened the structures further. The bombing aimed not just to destroy the pens themselves, but also to collapse entrances, bury repair facilities, and make it impossible for submarines to leave. German commanders realized the situation was hopeless. Even if the pens were not fully destroyed, they could no longer function as operational bases. One of the most dramatic Tallboy strikes occurred at La Pallice, where a Tallboy penetrated deep into the massive roof and exploded inside. The blast tore through the interior and shattered repair docks. The Germans had never seen anything like it. A structure designed to survive anything the Allies could throw at it had been breached by one bomb. The psychological impact was immense. The message was clear: nowhere was safe. By late 1944, the Germans began abandoning their French U-boat bases entirely. The Tallboy attacks had made them unusable, and the advancing Allied armies forced Germany to retreat back toward the homeland. Without secure bases, U-boats could no longer operate effectively in the Atlantic. The once deadly submarine threat was collapsing. The destruction of these submarine pens was more than just a tactical victory. It represented a turning point in the war at sea. For years, the Battle of the Atlantic had been a desperate struggle to protect American and British shipping lanes. Thousands of sailors and merchant crewmen had lost their lives fighting against the U-boat menace. But with the Tallboy campaign and the loss of the French bases, Germany no longer had the ability to launch large-scale submarine operations. This helped secure the supply routes that allowed Allied armies to build up, push across Europe, and eventually defeat Nazi Germany. The story of the Tallboy and the collapse of the concrete U-boat pens is a reminder of how innovation, engineering, and determination can overcome even the strongest defenses. What Germany believed was impossible, the destruction of their fortified submarine shelters, became a reality through the courage of pilots, the genius of designers like Barnes-Wallis, and the relentless pressure of Allied forces. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this deep dive into Lobby 2 history, make sure to like the video and subscribe for more stories just like this.